10 years ago, on the night of October 31st, a small Midwestern town fell victim to an escaped killer. Under the cover of darkness, he carried out the most horrifying mass murder on record. 16 people in cold blood. Ever since that night, no one has forgotten his name. And Halloween has never been the same.
Hey guys, it's Jonathan from Burge MR, and today, Halloween 4 and 5. I'm doing these together because the story goes together, and technically there was supposed to be more, but I'm gonna talk about all this. There's a lot to get through, and I'm gonna try to get through this one in one video instead of splitting it up into two like I had to do with Halloween 1 and 2. These came out in 87 and 89, respectively. They take place in 1988. It's been 10 years. It's been 10 years since the original one. These movies plus Part 6 were originally supposed to be a trilogy, one long trilogy. And there were some complications with Part 6, and I'm going to get into that in my review for 6. But really, this is one story. 4 and 5 is one story. 6 is a totally separate story, even though it was originally supposed to be a part of this. These were called going to be the Thorn trilogy, even though these movies have nothing to do with Thorn. Again, we're going to get there. This is the Jamie Lloyd story. And what is that? Now, like I said, this takes place in 1988. Michael Myers is still alive. Of course he is. He has been kept alive. He's badly burned. He's in a hospital. He's essentially kind of in a coma. They move him. He wakes up. He escapes. You know the drill. Now here's the difference. He's after somebody particular. Now, how it is that he knows about her, that is up in the air. We don't really know why. But he's after Jamie Lloyd. Jamie Lloyd is his niece. This is Laurie Strode's daughter, because in this story, in this timeline, in this part of it, and I say part of it because there's a lot of different timelines in the Halloween franchise. Like I said, Jamie Lloyd is Laurie Strode's daughter. Laurie Strode is dead. She has been dead for a year when this movie starts. Well, 11 months. She's living with a foster family and being taken care of by her foster sister, Rachel, who's a great character. Truly is. And Jamie finds out about Michael Myers, who Michael Myers is, blah, blah, blah. He's after her. They get to the end. And I'm skipping through a lot of this movie, and I'm skipping through it for a reason, because I want to get like the story part out of the way, because that's kind of not really my main focus. So excuse me as I kind of skip through this. We get to the end. Big chase. Very good chase. There's some great kills in this movie. Really, really fantastic, powerful kills in this movie. And that's the thing with this one. Because like I said in my original Halloween review, he was never as intimidating as he was in the first one. I hated his mask in Part 4. I hated his mask in Part 4. But they made up for the fact that he didn't look quite as intimidating. He was still kind of slow, but they made up for it in brute strength with this one. I mean, he is just straight powerful. He rips somebody's face off at one point. At one point he gets a shotgun, and it's so funny because instead of turning and shooting somebody with it, he uses it as a knife and just stabs it through this guy's sternum. It's hilarious. Anyway, they get to the end. Michael Myers has been run over. Jamie Lloyd goes over to check on him, ends up touching him, and he gets up and they shoot him dead. I mean, they fill him full of bullets, right? Of course he's not dead. Bullets can't kill him. And it cuts to the family in the house. Rachel's there, Jamie's there, the foster mother is there, upstairs running a bath for Jamie, and Jamie still has her Halloween costume on as this clown. Puts a mask on, grabs a pair of scissors, and attacks her foster mother, stepmother, whatever it is. And that's that. That was the end of the movie. It was great. It was awesome. Halloween, the original Halloween, had a great twist at the end where Michael was still alive. This is a legendary twist. Epic. It threw out so much. Because, I mean, literally, like, she comes out and her hands are bleeding. She's still holding the knife, and Dr. Loomis is about to shoot her. Somehow Dr. Loomis is still alive, too, by the way. Dr. Loomis is more immortal than any other character in this entire series. I don't know how he survives all these movies. His character literally survived up until Donald Pleasance didn't survive anymore. It was crazy. And Dr. Loomis pulls out his gun to shoot her and is screaming, "No, no, not again!" And everybody stops him, and that's the end of the movie. It was awesome. It was awesome to see the first time. It's been awesome to see every single time I've seen it since then. It's still great. It's sad though. And that's the main thing I'm going to talk about in this review, is what could have been. Now, Halloween 5. They skip ahead a year. Not really sure why. No real reason for it. They could have had it take place 2 weeks later and it would have been great. Jamie Lloyd is still there. She's in like a clinic. She's kind of catatonic. She doesn't speak. She has a lot of trouble expressing anything, and she's having these weird visions. Some sort of a psychic link to Michael Myers, who of course escaped. And I find it weird that they retconned the ending of their movie with the sequel, because instead of just filling him full of bullets, they fill him full of bullets. He falls down into a hole, some sort of a hole, and then they throw some sticks of dynamite in there and try to blow him up. And of course he escapes, and he's in a coma for a year in this time. Whatever. Gets through, and he gets out. He's after Jamie Lloyd again. Halloween 5 is actually a really good movie. It's really great in the sense that it's tense. They've got this character that can't really speak, is having these psychic visions. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the supernatural stuff that they started to throw in, and that was the thing. This was the beginning of them throwing in these supernatural elements. You get introduced to the thorn tattoo that Michael Myers has on his wrist. It's the first time you see it. There's this other character, the Man in Black, that has the same tattoo. And again, we're going to get into that more with part 6, because that's where all that comes into play. But it was this introduction to it. Now, I didn't feel that they were necessary, but they were there anyway. They started to introduce these supernatural elements, and I was mostly okay with that. But here was my problem with it. It was my problem with the movies, with these two movies. They didn't know what they wanted to do. Well, I take that back. They knew what they wanted to do, but the audience didn't like it. And let me explain why. Part 4, Jamie Lloyd is a victim. By the way, I gotta say this first. Jamie Lloyd is played by Danielle Harris. This was her first role, her first major role in a movie. And it's in the Halloween franchise. And she is fantastic in part 4. She's so good. She's good in 5 too, but again, she doesn't really speak throughout most of the movie. So it limits a lot of what she can do. But she's so good in these movies. I mean, she became a scream queen at age 9. 9 or 10, something like that. That is amazing. She was a young Jamie Lee Curtis in that sense. And she was so good. And they had this really powerful actress at such a young age that could carry this. And that's why they set up the end of Halloween 4 like they did. There was this idea that Jamie Lloyd could come and Danielle Harris could come and kind of take over the mantle from Michael Myers. And I don't know what the original plan for the story was going to be. I liked the idea that it was a curse that was passed down from Michael to his niece. That maybe there was this family curse for the Myers family. And no, I'm not talking about the curse of Michael Myers. That's part 6. And again, we're going to get into that piece of garbage pretty soon. But I liked that idea. Here was the problem. It didn't test well with audience. When they released it, there was a lot of audience that didn't really care for it. So, and when they came back to make part 5, they don't completely retcon that happened, that she went crazy and attacked her stepmother. They mention it. They mention it a couple of times. It's still something that happened, but they don't dwell on it. The end of part 4 made Jamie Lloyd a villain. The beginning of part 5, she's a victim again. And that's my issue with these. In that she's a victim through all of part 4 up until the end, and then she becomes a villain. And then they make her a victim again. She does well with either role. She did great as a victim. And that's mainly what you get to see her as. And she does it so well, but they throw this weird thing in that they wanted to do. And it didn't test well, so they dropped it. I wish that they had had confidence in what they were doing and just ran with it in part 5. No matter what the audience said. Didn't matter that the audience didn't like it. They didn't get a chance to accept it for what it was. You have to take risks. And these movies were willing to take risks, but I don't know why they didn't on this one. Now, I think it upsets me most of all, more than some of the other things in this movie, is because A, it would have been interesting to see what could have been, especially with a young Danielle Harris trying to pull this off. I think she really could have nailed it. And I really like the idea of the family that slays together stays together. It's something that gets teased in a lot of movies, and we never really get to see the fulfillment of that. I mean, with the exception of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that's another one that I'm talking about. The reboot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw 3D, teased that at the end too, and they never were able to make a proper sequel to it. You know? I like that concept, and I wish that I could actually see it. I wish that I actually could have seen it played out. I really would have enjoyed seeing young Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd actually getting either completely taking the mantle from Michael Myers and having this curse in her, and kind of, it would have been like we would have gotten to see what Michael Myers would have been like if he hadn't been caught in the original. This young guy, this young child who has this curse of evil in her. Very Damien-esque, but no Antichrist. I think that would have been really interesting to see. But they didn't do it. And I wish they would have either just, again, like I said, I wish they either would have just had the confidence to do it, or not even attempted it at all. And just let her be a victim for 2 movies. Again, she did great with that. Again, the supernatural elements of part 5 kind of make it weird, but you get past that. And honestly, this movie feels like the last real Halloween movie, because part 6 gets so weird and off the wall, and then they go to 7 and 8, and that's where I'm not going to be covering those, so it doesn't matter. I feel like this was the last real Halloween movie, the one that really kind of follows the procedures and protocols from it, because again, it's about the Strode family. It's still kind of keeping in that with Jamie Lloyd. And it could have been a very fitting end for it. if they didn't have the Thorn stuff in there. If they had left that out and just had it the end with him in jail, it could have been a fitting end. Honestly, even with the Thorn stuff, it still could have been a fitting end, because the end of it, he gets broken out of jail, all the cops are dead, and Jamie Lloyd is standing there screaming no. Imagine if that was the end of the franchise. That would have been ballsy, and it would have been great. But that's not what we got. But these two movies, I really, really enjoy them. I really do. I think they're great. I think there's a lot of missed potential there, and that's kind of the key. You're going to hear that a lot through my reviews. You already have with part 3. Missed potential. They had some really great ideas with these movies. Now, they decided to throw continuity out the window with some of it, but the ideas were solid. But it's like every time they tried something different, the audience didn't like it, so they dropped it. They were more concerned with that than giving any of their ideas any sort of chance to breathe and stretch its legs and really see what they could do. And I understand that this was the 80s. This was the time of horror franchises. Horror franchises ran so strong in the 80s that you had to go with what people were going to see, because you wanted to make your money. And I understand that. But at the same time, this was the only one of these franchises that I felt really took the opportunity to try something different. They failed a lot, but at least they were attempting to do something different. It wasn't the same thing over and over like a lot of the franchises were. And that's part of the reason why I love this one. Why I love this franchise, and why I love these two movies in particular. And again, it feels like the end. It's not, but it feels like it. Because the next one that we're going to get into, man, it's just a mess. Up next, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And it might be a little bit before this one, because for me to review this movie means watching it twice, because there's 2 different versions, and oh my gosh, it's going to be a long review. I'm apologizing ahead of time, but it'll be coming to you soon. Thanks for watching, guys.